Hi, Nomvo and Nomaza. It's so lovely for you to share your experiences with One-to-One regarding, where you come from and how it is that this exhibition coming up in Mayfair has such a personal resonance with you both. Nomaza, would you like to start by just explaining what it is about the charity that attracted you first to partnering with us?
When I first heard about the One-to-One organization, it was earlier February this year when I was doing my exhibition in London, and it's a South African based in London that spoke to me about the work. Strangely enough, she was talking about the region that I'm from because I'm born in the Eastern Cape in a small village called Ngqeleni. And when she told me of the work that the foundation is doing, I was blown away because I know the area very well. It is an area whereby the health system has failed people deeply in South Africa, whereby people have to work sometimes more than 10 kilometers just to go to a clinic. And to hear that now there was this program, especially with women who are HIV positive, which is something that touches my heart deeply. They have this program called the Mentors Mothers, whereby women are recruited, they are trained, and then they go out into their societies, giving out vital information and even sometimes treatment into preventing the transmission of the virus. That simply blew me away because the HIV virus is something that I've lived with for the longest time. So this is how I got to know about the work that is done by the One-to-One Foundation.
And what is it about your personal experiences that you just mentioned, which helps you to understand so well what it is that mentor mothers are doing in the region?
My older sister, Nomvo Bam, who is now 49 years old, was diagnosed with the HIV virus at the tender age of 19 years old. So I have, from the age of when she told me that she was HIV positive, I was only 17. So I have literally lived with the virus all of my life. I studied biomedical technology in South Africa and I worked for pathological labs. And I was really at the peak of the epidemic in South Africa, whereby I would have, for example, a batch of 100 specimens, and out of those 100 specimens, 90% of them will come out as HIV positive. So I've lost a brother to the virus. I've lost family members, neighbors, friends that I grew up with that no longer exist in this world. So it is a disease that I've lived with from a very tender age up until now.
And Nomvo, there wouldn't have been very much information available when you were at that very, very young age, given that diagnosis. You must have felt as though you didn't really have anywhere to turn for any support.
Thank you, Lisa, for having me. Wow, my diagnosis came through in 1994, and I was 19, about to turn 20 at the time, and I had very little information. In fact, my early exposure to AIDS, as it was referred to, because now we call it HIV and AIDS, then it was just AIDS. It was the year before, in 1993, when in our township where we stayed in Wodenelstras, at the library, they had brought a movie. We were shown a movie on AIDS. And that was my first exposure a few months before my diagnosis. So, and from the legal information that I had, watching that movie, it was very scary. It was a death sentence. No one was supposed to survive it. So when I was diagnosed, especially the doctor that diagnosed me, the manner in which he delivered the news, it was not a humanly friendly manner, because he just told me I had AIDS without even looking me in the eye. And that came as a shock. And I knew there and there that my life has changed. In fact, my life is over. And things changed, and they changed for the worse in the beginning. And it took time for me to even accept that I was HIV positive. So I went through denial I went through tests at different stations, hoping for a different result. And I think after the third diagnosis at a different location, then reality hit, and then I sank into a deep depression. I tried to attempt suicide, and after that suicide, I think, in fact, I was told that I was unconscious for 2 days. I'm not sure if Saza remembers that, because I had taken the depression tablets that the doctors had given me, and it was about 71 tablets that I'd taken. So it was a Friday. When I came to, it was Sunday, and I was told that my parents had come to see me because I'd given them the phone number. We were still using landlines at the moment. I spoke, but I don't remember anything. So I was unconscious, but I was speaking. So my parents came to me. And after that, after coming back, then I started attending counseling. And the shame, the embarrassment and everything. But it's something that the counselor said to me, that if you were supposed to have died, if God wanted you to die, you wouldn't have come back. Therefore, you have another chance. And I think I held on to those words, that I don't know what it is, but I will just keep going. And I had literally had to take it one day at a time from then. But I didn't know what I was doing, where I was going, and how long I was going to live. I had no hope. Thanks, Lisa.
So clearly there was not much information that would make you believe that you would still be here speaking to us age 49.
No, I had no hope. And that is why, because when I was diagnosed, I was pregnant. I was actually heavily pregnant. I was 5.5 months pregnant. So that's why I had opted for an abortion at the time, because I didn't want to bring a child into the world who was soon going to pass on, because that's what I believed was going to happen. I believed that I was going to die, and therefore the child was also gonna come HIV positive and die. So I opted for an abortion. So when I was going through the depression, it was not just from the HIV, it was also the abortion, the shame that goes with it. We come from a religious family. Our parents, our dad is a pastor, and my mom didn't want me to do it because it went against her Christian beliefs. But then my dad said, if she has to do it, let her do it. So there was a lot of confliction, but they supported me either way. And then I got depressed because now I had taken a soul, and also in a way brought shame to the family, So it was not an easy time. It was definitely not an easy time. Yes. And my sister was very young at the time. So most of the things she will not remember. She was very young. That is why when it was time for her to go to university, I felt it necessary that I should open up to her, so that I didn't want anyone else in my family to befall the same fate that I was in.
And I imagine if a program such as Mental Mothers was operating at the time in the village, it could have made a difference.
It could have made a big difference. It could have made a big difference, because even like Nomaza would normally say, and I can see it when she says, I can feel it when she says, Sisi, you literally saved my life. Because it's not like people live rough lives. But when you have no, when you don't know that there is someone in your family, then HIV and AIDS become a distant memory. It's for those people, it's for promiscuous people, it's for prostitutes, it's for gay people. That's what at least it was then. So when she says, Sisi, you saved my life, I think it's because if I had not spoken to her, she would not maybe taken the precautions that she did. Do you understand? So what the mentorship is doing, you're bringing information to people who are in rural areas, because as much as it's 2023, there are people who still don't have access to the information that we have, access to social media. So we cannot assume that what we know everybody else knows. So what that program is doing in Ngqeleni, it's literally saving lives. It's giving hope to someone who has lost hope that I'm the only one. So when you meet through support groups, then you can literally see that I thought I was alone, but there are other people out there. And therefore you find a hope and a reason to live and a reason to breathe just one more day.
So Nomvo, this was really unfortunate for you because it was so early on in the pandemic, and there was, not very much knowledge anywhere. But by 1994, you felt a little bit more confident with the information that was to hand, and you were able to make your next decision about your next pregnancy.
Yes, okay, that was in 97, 3 years later. Yes, 3 years later, because now I had made it a point that I will find out about what this HIV and AIDS is. And I gave it a term. And I said, it is a tenant, because, if you have a place that you're renting, you are the landlord, you call the shots. So I was like, this is my body. You are staying in my body rent-free, and you are not going to control me. I also didn't know that I would live this long, but I knew that I had a shot. And when Junior was conceived, my partner and I knew that what we were expecting, and I took all the precautions, as expensive as it was at the time, because the ARVs were not free at the time, but because we had medical aid, we were in a better place than when I was in 1994. So the medical aid did provide the AZT in the last trimester. So I had it. And then my son also was on medication for the first 6 months. And at birth, they didn't test him. They only tested him when he was 6 months old. And his results came back positive. I didn't breastfeed. I tried so much to give him a chance. And when they tested him and they came back positive, I was devastated. I fell into the same depression that I was 3 years later, even though the doctors told me not to worry, because at that time he's having your antibodies up until the age of 18 months, then it's not a true reflection of the results. But I just didn't want to believe it. And I was asking myself, what have I done? What have I done to my child? But when he was 12 months, then they tested him again. The results came back negative. I was a bit skeptical, and was, for the next 6 months, I was crossing fingers. And at 18 months, they tested him, and I knew, and I was so grateful. And from then, I lived for that child. I lived for that boy. Every milestone, seeing him going to school. But at the back of my mind, I was like, as much as I'm taking him to do his first day at school, grade 1, I'm not sure if I'm going to see him going to high school. So everything to me was important, that I am there for him. And later on, then I stopped counting, because I realized I'm here and I'm here to stay.
So clearly, access to information and persistent support that you can trust is really, really important here. Especially if a woman is going to believe that she can do it and keep her child safe. It's not about something that's superficial or unreliable. So a program like the Mentor Mothers is really, really important in order to make sure that there is that constant support that's trustworthy.
Definitely, it is.
And I imagine the fact that of the 40 Mentor Mothers who are running the program in the Eastern Cape, the fact that 90% of our Mentor Mothers have HIV is a kind of a plus, because it's someone who's walked that path ahead of you and is able to look behind and give you some guidance as you follow in their footsteps.
It is important. It is helpful that there's 90% of them are living with HIV. So the mere fact that those mothers are in the same boat, they are able to help and understand what their patients and the target group that they are dealing with. So it's very, very important. And it's so unfortunate that not everybody can disclose their statuses. And we're not saying that people should disclose their statuses, but whoever is going through this, they need to know that they are not alone and help is out there, but you have to reach out. People need to reach out. Help is out there. And it is just not the end. I've seen people dying of cancer. And you know, when you have cancer, and maybe it's at a certain level, that there's no going back. But with HIV, people have a chance. So also people should also be kind to one another. The things that we say with our mouths, you know, the things that we do, the way people are treated. I'm very grateful to my family because my family never discriminated against me. There are people who cannot use the same cup as you in the same families. And it's horrible. So sometimes people are not killed by the HIV. People are killed by the lack of love that they receive. People are killed by the stigma. And I always say that sometimes also stigma is self-imposed, because for as long as you feel ashamed of your situation, of your diagnosis, how can you expect the next person to embrace it? So you have to embrace your situation so that the others can be in a position to embrace it too.
And so, Nomaza, this brings us to the way that you use art to address stigma and to, we're all going to start crying in a minute. We have to cut this bit. edit, cut. But Nomaza, what I love is that you take the approach with your art that it is a medium for addressing stigma, for communicating love in the way Nomvo expresses it. Edit.
I wish I could hug you, Lise.
I wish I could hug you. Anyway, Nomaza, are you okay if I stop talking and you can explain how you use Undiscovered Canvas as a fantastic mechanism for communicating this love?
Thank you, Liz. Yes, sorry. We've been through this path with my sister for the longest time. So for you, it's a bit of a first time. For me, art is quite important because, as my sister clearly said, the beginning of a diagnosis, they just watched a film. And in that film, back then, because of lack of information and presentation, the images that we used were images that were very, very cruel. So I remember we did not even speak about HIV and AIDS. Back then, they would write AIDS and they would use a red color, which was a color of fear and death. So the visuals that were fed to people at that stage were visuals that simulated fear towards them. And that's how they chose to use art in at that period. You look at today, when we talk about HIV and AIDS, when I say my sister is HIV, people won't even believe it because they tell me, my God, she's so beautiful. She's, you know, and sometimes you see partners whereby one partner is positive and the other one is negative and they're healthy and they are living their lives. So the images that we are now representing to show, because we've been educated, obviously, time has shown us that people can live for a very long time. So the images also go with the fact that when we talk about HIV and AIDS, it's not in a manner that the end is tomorrow. This is very important.
So what I'm hearing is that you've identified a lack of beauty in communicating this story. There's a truth that's been missing from the art and the imagery that's been available about this story.
True. That's where the problem is. I think that it's extremely important nowadays, because if we're going to take away stigma and humanize people that are living with the virus, then we have to kind of like show them within our environments. We have to show them that these people are us, they are our sisters, they are our neighbors. And in so doing, the imagery that we're going to use must be of that and must show them in their, because I remember also in 1998, when my sister told me about her status, the image that we were seeing were people already at their end of their stages. So it was not even HIV anymore, it was AIDS. You know, and they were using that as if like that is how you are going to live your life. So it's very important to be able to show the beauty of how a person who is living, who has the virus, that person is still healthy, that person is still looking good, that person, when you see them, you won't necessarily say that they have the virus, because as my sister said, it's a guest in a body. She's the maître, she's the mistress of a body. You know, it's not the virus that is the owner of the body. She is. So I think that even the image that we use to be able to show people who are living with HIV and AIDS are quite important.
It's a huge psychological challenge, isn't it, to feel worthy enough to take the medication, to accept the fact that you can live a very, very long, happy life like this. So there's something about the way that women are treated generally in society, possibly in South Africa, but possibly also everywhere, which probably needs to be addressed as well.
There is a lot of work that has been done in the last in the last few years, I mean 20 years or so, because at first women didn't have the courage to be independent sexually. Let me start it there. For starters, that people would even not to go to an extent of not telling their partners that they are HIV positive, because we would be scared that he is going to leave you, or if he's not gonna love you because you're HIV positive. I'm a bit touched. Therefore, that's also how a lot of people have also found themselves being in the same situation that I am in, because people do not even test anymore. People do not test. I'm not sure now, maybe the situations have changed, but I know in my time that people would not test. People just got into relationships, and it's sort of like taboo. We don't talk about it. We know it's there, but we don't talk about it until there's a child, the child is sick, or maybe the child has died. So women felt that they were not in a position that they could equip themselves because of this stigma that we keep talking about. And also felt that if you are diagnosed, then it is your fault because you asked for it, you know.
Yeah,
it's because I'm thinking of situations, you know,
life situations,
yes, you know, where people felt obliged to lie about their statuses, you know, just to be loved. It's sad and hard because we feel that we are not worthy of being loved for who we are.
And again, it's why the work that's going on, not only with the Mental Mother program, but also the Mental Brother program is so important. So there are 22 village chiefs who support the Mental Brother program in their villages, which you can imagine is so important then, because it's an opportunity every week for all the men in the village to get together and share this information and support each other through a real cultural transition, which helps them to be different and to take better care of their families.
I've been asked a lot, you know, because for me, HIV was something like flu, like something that's in the air. That's how I lived with it when I was in South Africa. It was so contagious that I would think sometimes I can just breathe and I would get it. That's how scary it was. Every time I would do my blood test, no matter how safe I had been, I was always trembling of that moment whereby I will get I would get the results. And so when I talk about that here in Europe, people look at me and be like, no, Nomaza, it's so easy. You just condomize. No. Explain to them that it is not that easy because condomizing comes with a cultural package. It comes with changing mindsets. It comes to, so it's very important that we talk to our men. So the program that they have there is quite important because end of the day, says, Nomvo, maybe you can take over, because at the end of the day, it was the men that imposed that condoms should not be used within relationship. How, says Nomvo, what do you think?
Yeah, you hear a lot of stories. You'd hear silly stories, people telling you that they cannot eat a sweet with a wrapping. That's
With
how
the
they.
wrapping. Yes.
Yes, it may sound like a joke, but people would use such examples. And but with such mentorship, with such programs, and I'm glad that the chiefs are involved, because a chief is a very important person as Lalini. We call them Inkosi. They like your counselors. In maybe you know the word counselor. So if the chiefs can be on board, then they are responsible for the well-being of their people. And as Zaza says, if we can change the mindset, yes, it takes a village. It takes a lot. We cannot do it overnight. It's been happening over years, but I believe that one day we will be at a stage where we'll have a generation that is HIV free. Our kids that were born without HIV, there's absolutely no reason that they should be testing positive in later stages. Hence, as much as I disclosed to my son at the age of 13, which was quite early for him to be exposed to the virus, I do believe that I had helped him, because he also, it shaped him, it changed his behavior. And right now he's 26, so he's known for 13 years. And he is also grateful to the fact that I told him, because I had a challenge. Also, the reason that made me to tell my son, I had a challenge where I had to take pills, and I had to explain, because at the age of 13, they are now very aware of what is happening. At first, you pass them on as multivitamins, but girl, you've been taking multivitamins 8 in the morning and 8 at night. What multivitamins are these? And then I literally had to sit him down. But it was also important that I tell him when I am in a good state, health-wise, not when I am sick. Mm-hmm. So men get equipped. Let's equip our kids. Let's equip our men. And as hard as, and what I always say, a man is going to leave you because of your HIV status, then he was not supposed to be part of your life. Let us stop hogging men and making them our gods. They're definitely not our gods. If a man is going to stay with you, is going to honor you as a queen, is going to do that irrespective of what your status is.
Nomaza, you have a lot of beautiful imagery that your artists are creating of queens. You have some great queens who are able to express what it is that Nomvo's talking about in terms of the way women should be treated.
Without a doubt. So the artists that I'm going to be showing, they're all females. They are all coming from South Africa, but there's one artist in particular who requested to create, in fact, new works, Nene Mahlangu, for this exhibition. And there's a diptych piece that she produced, which is called The Dance of Liberation. In that piece, she's really honoring these women that are working more than 10 kilometers, being proactive within the healthcare that is needed in the Eastern Cape, working more than 10 kilometers from one home to the other home to be able to give assistance and medication. And she's saying that, you know, these women are doing a job that is divine. So in this piece, you have these women that are basically holding hands, dancing with fire coming out of their head, which is their head chakra, which is connected to their divinity, because, you know, when somebody does a work of this nature, and I know this from my sister, they are becoming selfless. When my sister told me at 17 that she was HIV positive, it was not a moment of glory on that phone call. She basically, at that stage, said, I need you to see what has happened to me so that it does not happen to you. So she sacrificed herself so that I can be able to have a chance to live a life that would be HIV negative. So so these women are literally then doing a job of divinity, like my sister did for me, because through her sacrifice, I was then able to make better choices. So this piece is these women with fire from their head, which is their head chakra, connected to the sky, because that's what Sis Nomvo you are. That's what you are. You were so young when you were so when you're diagnosed. I cannot. I'm 42 today. I will not even know how to handle an HIV positive status at 42. You were only 19. And for you to kind of sacrifice yourself at the end of the day and say, okay, this has happened to me. I will accept, I will fight. Yes, you went through your depressions. Yes, there were moments where you tried to commit suicide. But at the end of the day, you chose to show others that, you know what, through what happened to me, not by fault of yours, you know, because this virus is not, you know, it's not like you pick and choose. It was not fault by yours, but it was just, it happened to you. And you said, okay, it has happened to me, but I'll make sure that it does not happen to my siblings. Nompelo today has got 3 kids. She's HIV.
Yes, you too.
You know?
Nompelo is our other sister.
Our little sister.
The last born.
The last born, because also we had that chat with her when she went to university. We had that chat with her and we told her, we explained to her what really happens out there. So this piece, The Dance of Liberation by Nene, is really showing these women that are going out there, sacrificing themselves, sacrificing their stories, because they can be diminued in the eyes of the society, or when you are positive. So they go out there knowing very well that others will have a negative stigma towards them, but then they're saying it doesn't matter. For those ones that I can be able to help, I will assist. And this is what the piece is about that Nene has produced.
Wow.
We can't wait to see it. And also what's lovely is to hear that within your own family, you've already created your HIV-free generation. It's definitely possible. And that's something that everyone else needs to take some comfort from and some inspiration from. It's possible. Your family did it. And let's hope that, you know, One2One is able to help other families throughout the Eastern Cape do it as well. Nomvo, I'm going to ask you, what does women's empowerment in Africa mean to you?
Wow. Women's empowerment means taking control of your livelihood as a woman and knowing that anything you want to achieve, it's possible, it's within your reach, it's within your hands. You cannot expect the next person to do it for you. They say if you want to write a book, do not let someone hold the pen. Do it yourself. And by the way, I'm going to be writing a book very soon. So pray for me. So it is very important that women should not undermine their ability. We are made in God's image, and anything that you want to do, you can reach, irrespective of where you come from. Where you come from actually doesn't matter. If anything, you can be anything because of the hardships, maybe where you've come, because sometimes people who grew up having it all always end up not having it. I mean, we've been led by the great Nelson Mandelas, who come from the same rural areas where we come from, who come from nothing. So I don't foresee anyone in 2023 having to depend on someone, having to be scared because someone doesn't love them. Women can do it. We are Imbokodo.
Perfect. And Nomaza, if I was to ask you the same question, what does women's empowerment in Africa mean to you?
Women empowerment in Africa means women realizing their power. Women taking control of their power. women supporting each other so that they can rule. I do believe that women in Africa were meant to rule. And somehow, they have lost that notion of themselves. For me, women empowerment in Africa means that women coming into that realization again, that in reality, they are the rulers. They have the powers within their hands, and then they have the powers within each other. For me, when I talk about women empowerment in Africa, I see women in a circle holding each other's hands and changing our societies. That's what women empowerment for me is in Africa.
Perfect. Absolutely perfect.